That's my cookbook.
Does anyone viewing remotely want to make any public comments tonight? I see 4 people online. Chris has put her hand up for public comments.
Hi, everybody. Sorry I couldn't join you in person tonight. I just wanted to thank all of you.
Not yet. We're not in order.
Okay.
We appreciate your enthusiasm, Chris.
It is 6 o'clock now.
Okay. Call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. First item on the agenda is adopting minutes from our meeting.
Oh, the first order of business is actually a motion to amend the agenda to move the closed session to what would become item 4 right after public comment, and the thing that is currently 8, the revisiting of the unconfirmed citizen issue, to what will now be 5 right after the closed session.
Okay, I second that motion. All in favor of amending the agenda?
Aye.
Aye. All right, the second item is the adoption of minutes from our meeting in September. A copy of that has been circulated. Have you had a chance to read that?
I move that we accept the minutes.
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Signature. Next item on the agenda is public comments.
Yeah, Connie.
Connie Potter from League of Women Voters of Alexandria City in Arlington. 2 things. The league wanted to thank Gretchen and Dominic for the first of our civic education programs at the library. They talked about the difference between the Board of Elections and the office. And the second thing is I've heard reports that voters are telling league members how delighted they are with the Long Bridge site.
Sorry, what was that second thing?
The voters in South Arlington are pleased with the Long Bridge Aquatic Center.
Thank you.
I just want to add that I ran into a very excited Connie at the Safeway on Sunday night, and she was very excited about the success that the league was having in signing up voters. And then we also have a online comment.
Chris.
Chris,
Yes.
go ahead.
Now I have permission, right?
Yeah.
Sorry I couldn't be there in person, but I do want to thank also Gretchen and Dominic, because that was a great, very informative session at the library. Lots of information there. I wish more people had attended, but we'll share the link, I guess, when it comes out. And also, I think you guys are doing a great job of outreach, what's on your social media sites and on your website. And I love the mail out information, the TRIFO that came out. That was very, very good. So thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comments? All right, moving on to the next item on the agenda, we have an additional list of elections.
Now we're on closed session in our new agenda. Skip to your.
I move that the electoral board go into closed session pursuant to state code section 2.2-3, 711A7 for the purpose of discussing legal advice. Get a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? This will be a
You
short.
shall return. We do have business after this, so don't leave on.
Sorry, I'm catching up on my.
Since we solved all the world's problems, there's no reason to continue this. We're done.
6:35, Rich.
All right, I move that the electoral board return to public session And I certify that only public business matters lawfully exempt from open meeting requirements by Virginia law, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening closed session were heard, discussed, or considered.
Second.
All in favor of going back into public session, say aye.
Aye.
All right. The next item on the agenda,
Is also a moved item from the bottom.
which number are we moving?
I think it's 8.
It's,
Up to this.
number 8 became number
Five.
5.
Okay, yeah, at the last meeting, we voted to not only refer the issue of unconfirmed citizens to the Commonwealth Attorney, but also to the Attorney General in Virginia. And Kim subsequently had asked that we reconsider the portion of the vote having to do with the Attorney General. So
I will move that we reconsider our vote on referral to the Attorney General. I'll explain why if somebody seconds that.
all right, I second that. And Kim, why don't you go ahead and explain your reasoning for
All
why
right,
we reconsider?
give me 1 second here. Let me just catch up. Sorry, turn right. Okay, so the reason why I asked for us to reconsider this vote, one, I realized as a board, we actually hadn't talked to the Commonwealth's attorney. We should probably have done that before we even voted on it. And then the second point, which I think Dominic's.
Yeah, now I'm gonna try to remember where.
It's the code section.
Did I tell you the code section and you?
I have
jotted
it here. I've got it right here.
Ah, delightful.
So there is a section of code that basically says that we can't do that.
Yeah, so 24 if you don't mind, 24.2-104 is about requesting assistance from the attorney for when the Attorney General can be called in. And it provides basically 3 points. One is that first, the sort of obvious that the Attorney General has the right to do whatever he wants in terms of enforcing the election laws. It's not solely the Commonwealth's attorney. But it then kind of leaves to the State Board of Elections the ability to call in the Attorney General for something. To the extent that local electoral boards have something in this provision that allows us to request Attorney General help, it's if we think there's a systematic problem or systemic problem that has the potential to implicate the outcome of elections, which I don't think that our situation covers. So, and I know I have seen this in other places. I think Loudon does it a slightly different way, which is what I would propose after we reconsider this. We change our course of action to alerting the Attorney General that we have referred certain things to the Commonwealth's attorney. I know Loudon does it that way, just letting the Attorney General know rather than making it a referral of a criminal matter to the Attorney General, which it doesn't appear we are supposed to be doing.
And I have certainly no problem with not saying that it is not a referral. I mean, I think all along my thought had been that they have a election.
They should be
task
alerted.
force, and they should be alerted to what information we have. And we've already met with the Commonwealth's attorney, and they're aware of these situations. So, Kim, how would you refer the information that we are sending to the Attorney General as opposed to the referral? How would you like that to be stated if that's what you're asking?
So Loudoun County has an alert to the.
I think the way they say is the way it was put.
By the way, for the benefit of people online, would be helpful if we close that door.
They've decided it's time to vacuum. So the way it came across to me, I watched one of Loudon's board meetings. No need to go into why I decided to do that. And the way they kind of phrase it is they were going to let the Attorney General's office know that they had referred whatever it was they had referred to their Commonwealth's attorney. Sort of FYI, we have referred the following to the Commonwealth's attorney for Loudoun County. I don't know if they share it with the city.
Well, I guess my question is why? Because if the Commonwealth's attorney needs to refer things to the AG, the Commonwealth's attorney can't do that. So I don't, it kind of feels like we're stepping on toes, honestly.
At the same time, if the Attorney General is trying to supervise things and is reliant upon the Commonwealth attorneys to tell him or his office when they are doing things, and that he only becomes alerted when they ask him to be aware of what they are doing or that they have run into a roadblock of some sort. This way, the Attorney General's office and his election folks know what's going on in the state, then they do what they need to do with that. If they need or feel they need to do anything. But it would allow for them to, if they want to pick up the phone and say to the Commonwealth's attorney, what is going on with X, Y, and Z, they can have a conversation that I don't think we can have with either the Attorney General or we just don't have enough information. They're all in the law enforcement silo and can talk about things that
We can't.
we cannot know and that they would not disclose to us, and they shouldn't disclose to us as.
And I think we should make clear in anything we do that we're not suggesting that
The Attorney General do anything.
or that this is a rampant problem that is affecting the outcome of any particular election, but rather just simply that this is information that they might want to be aware of. And I also like the idea of saying, oh, and by the way, we have referred the same information to the Commonwealth's attorney, and we have met with the Commonwealth's attorney and without
To
details
basically,
that they are looking into.
to basically say, for your information, we, referred to the Commonwealth's attorney for Arlington and Falls Church, this matter of 14 people who came to our attention who.
Actually, they said 14, but wasn't it 11 really?
It's 14.
14, oh, okay.
Yeah, so that there are 14 people who came to our attention as non-citizens and whose registrations were canceled for such reason, but who had voting records over a course of whatever the time period is. I forget what the exact.
Can I ask a question? Is the Attorney General's Election Integrity Task Force still, does it still exist? Because I couldn't find any reference of it to his public website. Because I did go looking after the last meeting and I wasn't
That's a
able
good
to
question.
find any contact information or ways to refer these specific
Maybe we.
crimes to the Attorney General.
I have been told informally that it still exists and that there is a person who kind of heads it up, but there was never any official task force that was ever formed in the first place.
Okay. Because that's where, but when I started looking after the last meeting, that's as far as I got from her.
And if you'd like, if we do.
I thought at one point there was something on his website about it, but maybe
It's possible. I mean, I
There
didn't,
may have been a press release about it years ago, but yeah, I don't recall anything else.
yeah. So,
or
but
it's something I found through a Google search that I didn't go to the homepage of the Attorney General and see it. I kind of backed into something that maybe.
yeah, but that's as far as I got after the last meeting. Then I stopped.
All right, then, based on what I think I'm hearing, I move that we amend our prior.
I think if I want to be a stickler for Robert's rules, we first have to approve the motion to reconsider our
Okay,
vote.
all in favor of the motion to reconsider?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we are now.
Now we can reconsider
All
our,
right,
and then,
I would move that we request that Gretchen send a letter to the Virginia Attorney General, a person whose identity is yet to be revealed, that would basically say that we had received information about individuals who had been removed from our voting list on the basis that the state
They were not citizens.
not citizens, We do not know whether that's true or not, but we dropped them from our rolls. And we have referred this information to our Commonwealth's attorney, who is undertaking an investigation. But we wanted you to be aware of this so that you could take whatever action you might think is appropriate at that point.
So can I just restate the motion?
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Because my question is it in this case or in all cases?
I would think that we could, this would be just for this case, but I suspect that this will be an issue
Yeah,
that comes up on a recurring basis, that we will continue to get people who have been ordered removed from the voting rolls, and that we do remove them, and that we have some indication that they have voted in elections. But this particular letter would just refer just to this particular year.
Okay, so I'm gonna restate. So motion to send notice to the AG of information received on non-citizen voters. And how we handled this. So then that would be, for instance, referring us to the Commonwealth's attorney, following the proper channels of reference for investigation.
And I would add that we have no way of knowing one way or the other whether these 14 individuals were or were not citizens.
Right.
But the Attorney General, of course, might be in a better position to determine that than we are.
I would suggest one friendly amendment.
Okay.
If Jim is amenable, if she wants to say no, she can, I suppose, say no. Although we could direct her to do things. That the secretary of the board send that
Yeah, I'm
notification
not
rather
sure.
than
I
the register.
can.
Yeah, that would.
It should come from us and not from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it has to come from the electoral board.
That's
Discussion to send notice to AG voters, including notice of process followed. Notice to come from secretary.
Yes, there is a news release from 2022.
Secretary.
Huh.
Behalf
Yeah.
of the
I don't like they will reach out to Loudon to see if they're referred. Or you can.
Okay, so the motion is motion to send notice to the AG, Attorney General's office, non-citizen voters, including notice of process followed. The notice is to come from the secretary on behalf of the full board. Does that sound right?
that does,
Yes.
Okay, so that's the motion on the table.
right?
Second, if we didn't already.
Right, any further discussion on that issue?
I would just note that we don't think this would be a violation of open meeting laws for us to hammer out the exact wording of that language if you want to pass the draft
Okay,
around before you.
All emails are subject to FOIA.
okay, so I'll write
And the
it.
final letter that we send is also certainly something that will be
Subject to FOIA.
subject to FOIA.
Okay, I'm gonna ask for a voice vote on this one.
Okay,
Okay, so. Okay, Rich,
I voted in favor of this motion.
okay, Dominic,
Aye.
okay, and no, I'm gonna vote no. So I'm gonna vote a nay on that. Okay,
All right.
so the motion's passed.
All right, the next item on the agenda is election officer appointments, and we have a list of
89 names.
89.
Because Steve with a space is presumably the same person as Steve with no space. Numbers 59 and 60. My apologies.
Okay,
Okay, so sorry, that again was how many?
89.
89, thank you. 89, and the appointment is through February 28th, 2025.
Yes.
Okay, I move that we approve these 89 names through February 2025.
I'll second that.
Any discussion of that? Other than to say I don't offhand recognize any of these names, I'm very happy to have their names.
Nor do I. We have a longer name than me.
Oh, wow.
I'll take it.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
I think you got two.
There are, but it's another Meyer.
Right, next item on the agenda is election officer training.
That's not. So we're just going to make the board aware of the election officer training classes that we have coming up. There are 15 classes.
There are
12 classes. I apologize.
No, it's okay. I'm not looking at it.
So here's the schedule.
And then, oh, I'm sorry, there are 12 lecture classes and then 3 days of the lab.
Okay.
So yes, 15 years.
Good.
No, no.
Anyway, so we're just making the electoral board aware, in the event they wanted to.
Maybe you can help me out.
I count 14.
When this says equipment lab, what is that?
So equipment lab is a new training that we rolled out, in the summer. It's like a self-paced opportunity for election officers to come in and actually use the equipment. So that will be, we'll have like long sessions and people sign up for like a time slot to come in, and work with the electronic poll books and the scanners and ADA devices.
Yeah, I actually attended a couple of them during the summer, and it was actually really informative. It also included a paperwork option.
Yeah.
So election officers had the opportunity to sit there and actually fill out the paperwork. They were given scenarios. So, and it was actually really, really good.
So it's one hands-on training,
Excellent.
so.
Can we highly, highly encourage chiefs at least to attend the paperwork part of the training?
Make it a requirement if you want.
I would be happy to do so. I really would like. Is
Yeah,
that-
can you mute RF?
I thought maybe he was responding to my.
He might be, he is the chief, so.
And I say that not because I have the vast majority of chiefs are fine, paperwork is fine. My opinion is that it would behoove us to have our paperwork as perfect as can humanly be expected, because there are a lot of eyes on everything that's happening this year.
We are working together on getting a like self-paced module together where people can practice doing paperwork at home. Using, so we, put together a sample set of tapes and things like that for them. to practice
CHP
their-
is here.
Yes.
That's here.
We're having time.
Yeah, okay.
There's no vote that we need to do with that. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the timeline for election processing.
So in election day shifts, I think these are kind of the two ones. So we're talking about the end of the election process for the electoral board. So as in years past, the electoral board has worked shifts on election day. So the question is, do you want to continue to do shifts? If so, who wants morning, midday, and evening shift? Where you're stationed in the office that day.
I like shifts.
I'm fine with shifts. I'm happy to take whichever one my colleagues don't want.
I'm gonna pass on the morning.
I'll take the morning.
He's fine with
I'm
that.
fine with that.
Which,
If I were not in this chair, I'd be getting up to be at the innovation school at 5 o'clock in the morning anyway. So
all right, which would be your preference?
I can take the mid shift.
Okay, I'll take the evening shift. I'll stick around and help cars, I guess.
And then, so after the election, this year, you guys do have 10 days to certification, so we aren't working. We'll still have a lot of work to do. We are given until Sunday to finish entering the same day registrations. We can either go ahead and set that post-election schedule now, or we can wait and see how many provisional ballots we have to see what that post-election schedule might look like into the next week.
My preference would be if we could set the final meeting for 9 days rather than 10 days.
Yes, I would agree with
And
9
Thursday,
days.
I have a conflict that night that obviously I would be here for the election if.
No, I think 9 days is, I don't
So
want
that
to
would
take
be
the
the
full 10
Thursday.
days if we,
Well, I was thinking, I mean. it's
The Wednesday?
Wednesday.
That's fine with me.
I have a Thursday night,
yeah, Wednesday is fine. Is that the,
the 11th.
The 11th, the 13th? The Wednesday following the 11th, the election is what, the 5th, isn't it?
Yeah.
The following Wednesday would be the 13th.
13th, yeah.
That's fine. So that would be the certification meeting.
yeah,
We will have the provisional ballot, initial provisional ballot meeting at noon on Wednesday,
Yeah.
the
as is usual.
6th. In terms of when we would expect to have things, we could certainly do precinct canvassing at any point.
Yeah.
Um,
Sooner, and it's
the cap for mail-in ballots can be done starting
Friday
Friday afternoon.
after like 2 p.m. And then we have
But
the,
then we're gonna be looking at Monday because there's no way that the state is getting any.
yeah, we won't have the duplicate report for same day registrations until the Sunday or Monday at the earliest. And then we still have
But you guys
ranked
have till
choice
Sunday.
voting, round tabulation.
We can add the final ranked choice to the Wednesday meeting.
I'm not sure there will be a. Here.
We'll plan according,
We can, I would say at this point, I would not go with the preliminary count thing for the RCV until and unless the candidates start bugging us about one. And then I mean, it's also hard to say when we would be able to
we'll
do
only
that.
do rounds if no candidate has more than 50% plus 1 vote in the first round. And we won't have first round completely done until we get through provisional ballots on Monday.
But we will report, we are required to report first round votes the same way we report everything else that comes in, so
Yeah.
people will have a general clue about
Yeah.
whether
Yeah.
the
Absolutely.
outstanding provisionals and mail-ins are likely to change us from not having one to having one.
Yes.
Okay. So we don't need to do a preliminary thing unless we determine on Tuesday, the 5th, that there's a chance that we would need to have.
And of course, our goal is to get, just because we have until Sunday to get, we'll try to get SDRs entered, but once again, we're gonna be.
But if
helpful on
the
that
rest of the
report.
state has until Sunday, someone will take until Sunday and,
Yeah,
we
well,
won't
they
get the
just won't
report.
run the report until Sunday. Yep.
Do we have other, scheduling? Meaning like our personal schedules in terms of when would be better to do things like evenings, afternoons, like do we
I
have?
mean, I'm just gonna take those days off work, Monday,
Yeah.
Tuesday, Wednesday, so.
My schedule is open that week
Yeah.
as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do we generally have the idea that we will start on Wednesday, do what we have to do on Wednesday if anybody comes in to defend their provisional ballots, and then
Do you go into precinct canvas if we can?
we can do that on that Wednesday if everyone's amenable, and then we will recess until Monday at the
next
earliest,
week?
because there's not gonna be much else to do.
All right.
Okay.
So are there any other items that anybody wants to discuss before we?
Oh,
Does that cover? Yeah.
yeah, that does. Did we discussed, logic and accuracy testing too? Was it October 7th?
It's, I don't have my
I think
phone
it
in
was
front of
Tuesday,
me.
the 22nd.
Yeah, Tuesday,
Yeah.
Tuesday sounds,
Okay, I just want to make sure that I get that on my calendar, so.
yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't.
That's all right. I was trying to find it in my email and I couldn't.
I'll resend the notice, because I also have to send the notice of pre-processing dates to the parties.
All right, it is now 6:59 and I move that we adjourn our meeting.
Second.
Any further discussion of that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming out.